I was very much looking forward to having my first child. Didn't mind whether it was a boy or girl. The birth was bad. And at one point I did say to my husband, this baby doesn't want to come into the world. I was in a very bad shape and Charlie seemed fine. And, you know, he looked absolutely beautiful. For the first few months seemed extraordinarily good. He did smile dead on 6 weeks. That was the first milestone. But by about the 7th, 8th, 9th month, he started doing these odd kind of spasm things, but seemed happy. He was starting to do this hand mannerism, which we joked about at the time, saying it looked like he was going to play violin. The moment that I was panic-stricken was certainly when the epilepsy became evident. I mean, I was basically calling him autistic even already, but the official diagnosis wasn't done until he was 5. In terms of autism, I think he's totally classic in a lot of ways. Lack of eye contact, repetitive motions, the self-injury, banging his head. He's dependent on another individual in order to meet his needs on an hourly basis. The behavior was extraordinarily difficult to live with. I mean, it's like nothing else. I mean, there was times when he was just like a wild, uncontrollable, angry animal. When it was obvious that Charlie had autism, a lot of people didn't know what it was. A lot of friends dropped off and didn't seem to be able to handle the whole concept even of what had happened. It was just like this red flag to them. They didn't want to be touched by that ugliness. There's some that just couldn't cope with the facts. I came to terms with his difficulties, but I just didn't come to terms with people being angry at the way he was behaving. I just felt it was inappropriate on their part that they had the ability not to be that way and he didn't. And so why couldn't they just get their act together, you know? I mean, why couldn't they just not stare at him, you know, just be civilized, you know, and give us some space? You have to turn it into something that's positive or else it's not that survivable, really. To say he's disabled, well, no, he is Charlie. This is Charlie, this is, you know, and he was my son and he was my, in a way, my raison d'etre for a long time and still is. I was very well aware of his limitations. I was probably more aware than anyone else. Losing the hope of what he could have been was difficult. I definitely felt resentful. First of all, I think I aimed it at the medical profession because I didn't feel they were doing enough. I didn't resent Charlie for any reason, really. I mean, it's not his fault. I resented the condition, though. I certainly resented the fact that he had autism. I felt resentful that the marriage and the extended family that I had did split. I'd been aiming to be a musician, and you sort of have to grieve over that loss, and that you see all your colleagues going ahead with their lives. I was resentful of that. I thought, if I'm going to survive this, in order not to be angry, I'm just going to have to just leave out my agenda for life for a while. That was hard, because I was getting angry and resentful. I was thinking, this isn't any way to have a life, you know, but I just thought, well, the only thing I can do for him is to be there for him and be central to him and take care of him. This is Charlie on the swing. The swinging is very relaxing for him. I think there's been studies proven that, you know, this kind of movement is very soothing for the neurological system. It's a good thing for them to do. He's perching. It was like a safety thing for him. It was like any animal that goes up and perches high, out of danger's reach. He's banging his head there, so he's obviously anxious. This one I really love, too. It's very soothing to see. It's hands joining up. It's this sort of umbilical cord. He looks very content. He also spends a lot of time in the rocking chair at home. It's kind of like the old perching thing, but I don't discourage it. And there's other theories out there would say, no, you have to get him doing something else. You have to tell him that's not what you're supposed to do. But I think, he has such a hard time that if he needs to crouch and be in a fetal position, then he needs it. And like I said, half the world sits like that anyway. Communicating, obviously, for them, it must cause so much confusion, and that the anxiety levels go up, and, maybe it is better to elect not to talk. Charlie would just drop to the ground wherever we were if he'd had enough. You couldn't pick him up, almost. He was just determined to stay down there. And that happened a lot in those days. I think he just had to shut down once in a while, and I guess that was one of his coping mechanisms. I think I ended up carrying him that day. Going outdoors at all was difficult. The noise level. Airports were the worst. Hospitals absolutely went berserk in. Or if he goes into a big shop where intercom is coming on, it's overstimulating circumstances for him is what sets off the headbanging and the distress. People stared a lot and sort of gave funny looks. I remember saying things to people like, why don't you go get an education or something? Some people would say things. Can't you get that boy under control, I think was one of them. You are on a desperate quest at the beginning for anything that will help your child's condition. And a lot of people capitalize on that quest. I feel taken advantage of by various practitioners, that they're only guessing and they're experimenting. And it's at the financial expense, and it's at the expense of our emotions, and it's at Charlie's expense as well, making a business out of people who are in vulnerable positions. You have to come to grips with the fact that that quest is in vain in a way, and you just have to accept that this is a permanent pathology. That's hard. It is hard accepting that it's permanent. It's very difficult because, we're conditioned and want life to always get better. Charlie had music therapy from quite a young age, 5 maybe. I guess at the beginning of the sessions, he would just be on the outer periphery of the room. But the purpose of the therapy is to encourage interaction and trust. His eyes are turned, he's listening, he's processing, and he's taking pleasure in hearing her play. He also loves being in the darkroom. The darkroom uses various means to entice him. It's a soundproof room, it's a safe room, it's very padded out. It gives them an environment which they can settle down in. Charlie did calm down in that room. He wouldn't go out in the back garden in Barnes in the end. Just wouldn't go out there because of the noise levels and planes and things. So obviously his anxiety was increasing. And there's an awful lot that's unpredictable about London all the time. I did decide when Charlie was around 9 to work towards a permanent move back to Canada. Living in a small town in Canada as compared to living in London is, it couldn't be more contrasting, I think. Small, it's by the ocean. We don't have a lot of auditory noise all the time. It's an easy grid to understand when you're walking around. A simpler environment just suits his needs better. He has to go to the local school. They just consider him part of the community. He really has, in as far as can be done, he has been integrated into an inclusive system of education. The school system decided that he needed his own space to be able to chill out in. He is mobile around the school. He's not in the classrooms per se, except in music partially, and gym class, I think. They just let him walk around holding a basketball, but that may not sound like much, but he used to not hold anything like that. And holding the basketball was also suggested to help him prevent self-injury. He loves being in the woods. It makes him happy, it makes him relaxed. There's decreased anxiety. If he's wanting to direct me to what he wants, he'll often put his arm around my shoulder and take the other hand and direct my hand. Gestures and directing, expressions, that is his main means of communication, I guess. Hair pulling is indicative of, for God's sake, I don't want to be doing this. It certainly hurts and it's inconvenient. It concerns me, but I know it's not intentional aggression. It's more like, oh, I just don't want to be here, I guess if you make the equivalent of a stroppy 16-year-old who doesn't have a disability, might be, really mouthing off at you. My feelings are pretty scary. I mean, I'm scared. I'd like to know that he has a meaningful day and that he has good care. And then I would feel that he could function without me. He's got a special presence. I don't know what to say. There's something very special about him because he operates on a feeling level and a sensory level. And because he doesn't talk, he's like a silent monk. There's a very strong bond with Charlie. We've been through so much together and survived and are fine enough. I do love Charlie. I mean, yeah, I do love Charlie.